Hello, my name is ASG33. I'm a researcher at I Am Humans by Arthas Enterprise. Today is November 13th, 2025, on a Thursday afternoon, and I just want to share with all of our followers and readers some of the research that has come out of our um, lab today. And so let's go ahead and begin. The title of this discussion is called "The Cost of Competition: Protecting Athletes Beyond the Game." Professional athletes often stand as symbols of strength, discipline, and perseverance. Yet behind the highlight reel and championship trophies lies a sobering reality. Many careers are cut short not by injury, but by stress, financial illiteracy, and struggles with addiction. Here is a fact that we have discovered. Studies and documentaries such as 30 for 30 Broke on Netflix reveal that a significant number of athletes face financial ruin within just 3 years of retirement. 59% of NBA players are in financial trouble within 5 years of retirement, and 78% of NFL players feel serious financial stress within 2 years of leaving the game. This essay is not a lecture, but a conversation starter, an invitation to reflect on the pressures athletes face and the lessons these challenges hold for all of us. Competition, the first classroom. Notion: competition begins long before the stadium lights come on. In families with many siblings, rivalry is often the first teacher. Children compete for the remote control, for parental attention, or for recognition in school and sports. These early contests shape our understanding of success and failure. Here's an idea: competition can be both healthy and toxic. Healthy competition motivates growth, resilience, and excellence. But toxic competition, however, breeds resentment, insecurity, and fractured relationships. Here's an analogy: competition is like fire. When controlled, it warms the house and cooks the meals. When competition is unchecked, it burns the house down. The challenges of being an athlete. Professional athletes often appear to live lives of glory, wealth, and admiration, yet beneath the surface lies one of the most challenging realities athletes face once they reach the pros: the pressure of family and friends. Former NFL linebacker Keith McCants once remarked, "Family and friends, they stick it to you more than anybody." His words highlight a recurring theme. Those closest to athletes often become the most significant source of financial and emotional strain. Leon Searcy, a former NFL offensive lineman, described the frustration of seeing lifelong acquaintances suddenly unable to function without him. Jamal Mashburn, a former NBA forward, added that many athletes struggle with the simple act of saying no. Financial advisor Ed Budowski illustrated the consequences: clients buying multiple homes for relatives only to face the impossible task of asking them to move out once the career ends. Here's an idea. These testimonies reveal a deeper challenge. Where do athletes draw the line when it comes to boundaries? How can they balance generosity with sustainability? Here's a metaphor. The mind is the athlete's most potent tool, a muscle that requires conditioning just as much as the body. Learning to say no to requests one cannot meet is no different than training for game day conditioning. Just as athletes strengthen their bodies to endure physical challenges, they must improve their minds to endure emotional and financial pressures. Boundaries are not signs of weakness, but of discipline. Athletes must train their mental resilience to protect themselves from obligations that could jeopardize their financial stability. Leon Searcy confessed, "I felt deep down somehow that I owed them for where I was, that their influence or their help in my past ultimately led me or got me to the position that I was in." This sense of indebtedness is common among athletes. Gratitude for family support can morph into guilt, leading to unsustainable financial commitments. Obligation is like carrying a backpack filled with bricks. At first, the weight feels manageable, even noble, but over time, the load becomes unbearable, slowing progress and threatening collapse. At I Am Humans, we understand this pressure intimately. Our lived experience has shown that trying to help everyone, especially in matters of finances and addictions, often leads to burnout and strained relationships. True support means empowering others to help themselves, rather than inserting ourselves into their lives. Guidance is a lighthouse. It does not sail the ship for others, but it shines a light to help them navigate their own course. The challenges athletes face are not limited to the playing field. Family expectations, financial obligations, and the inability to say no can destroy careers and relationships. Yet by treating the mind as a training ground, athletes can build the resilience needed to set boundaries and protect their futures. At I Am Humans, we believe that the most significant victory is not in giving endlessly, but in teaching others to stand on their own. Injuries can happen, while splurging today can devastate tomorrow. Athletes perform at extraordinary levels because of the competitive nature that drives them. This inner fire is what makes them household names, admired by millions. Yet the question remains, how much of this competitive nature is a blessing, and how can it develop into unrewarding and unchecked aggression? No amount of competitive drive can prevent injuries. Athletes, no matter how strong or determined, are vulnerable to sudden setbacks that can end careers overnight. When injuries occur, the pressing question is not about fame or glory, but survival. What money will remain to cover living expenses? Many athletes feel obligated to take care of their families and friends, often paying bills or buying homes for them. This generosity reflects loyalty and gratitude, but it also raises deeper concerns about sustainability. While generosity is admirable, it raises a critical question. Will these expenses be helpful when contracts end or injuries occur? The answer is often sobering. Financial advisor Ed Butowski has warned that athletes frequently face enormous medical costs after retirement, including long-term damage that requires careful planning and savings. These expenses are not optional. They are inevitable consequences of years spent performing at the highest level. Without disciplined financial planning, the very generosity athletes show to loved ones can become the source of their downfall. Money is a safety net. When stretched too thin by obligations or acts of generosity, it can tear under the weight of unexpected crises. Former NFL quarterback Bernie Kosar reinforces this point, explaining, "Putting your money away, putting it in the bank, and getting boring interest rates is probably the safest thing to do. Don't waste energy figuring out who to trust, who not to trust, what investments to do." His advice highlights the importance of simplicity and caution. Rather than chasing risky investments or trying to please everyone financially, athletes and people in general are better served by focusing on stability and long-term security. Ed Butuoski captured this reality with striking clarity. What happens in their world is a microcosm of what happens universally. People live above their means. People have too much debt. People are living for their next, for the next big hit. Athletes' struggles mirror those of society as a whole. The temptation to overspend, to chase the next thrill, or to live beyond one's means is not unique to sports. It's a human challenge. The athlete's financial world is a mirror reflecting the broader economy. Just as households collapse under the weight of debt, so too do athletes when their spending outpaces their earnings. Generosity is a noble trait, but unchecked generosity can become a liability. Athletes must recognize that their careers are finite, their bodies vulnerable, and their financial futures dependent on careful planning. True strength lies not only in physical performance, but in the discipline to say no, to save, and to prepare for tomorrow. Success is not measured by how many bills are paid for others, but by whether the athlete's own foundation remains strong enough to withstand the storms of life. Leon Searcy, a former NFL offensive lineman, admitted, "I thought I was pretty invincible. I thought I was going to play for 14, 15 years. But the average NFL career length, according to the NFL Players Association in 2022, was 3.3 years. The minimum NFL salary in 2024 was $750K, but after taxes, agent, and locker room dues, the take-home pay was $370K. This belief in invincibility is common among athletes, yet it is a dangerous illusion. Careers are often shorter than expected, and the body cannot always withstand the punishment of professional sports. Invincibility is a mirage in the desert. It looks real from a distance, but disappears the closer you get. Marvin Miller, former executive director of the MLB Players Association, highlighted the stark truth. In football, the players have the lowest salaries in team sports, the shortest careers, and they have the worst injury rate and disability rate in team sports. Football players face the most punishing combination of low pay, short careers, and high injury risk compared to other professional athletes. This reality underscores the importance of financial literacy and long-term planning. Without it, athletes risk not only losing their careers but also their futures. A football career is like a candle, burning at both ends. It shines brightly but burns out quickly. Athletes must recognize that injuries are inevitable and that splurging today can have devastating consequences tomorrow. The competitive spirit that drives them to greatness must also be balanced with discipline, foresight, and financial responsibility. At I Am Humans, we believe that true victory lies not in fleeting fame, but in resilience, stability, and the wisdom to prepare for tomorrow. At I Am Humans, we acknowledge that competition is not inherently bad, yet we choose the safer route, even if it means losing in areas where others chase glory. Winning is not always the ultimate goal. Stability and well-being are. Life is not a race to the finish line, but a voyage across unpredictable seas. What matters is not how fast we sail, but whether our ship stays afloat. No competition is worth losing a friend, a relative, or one's peace of mind. The documentary quotes remind us of the paradox athletes face. Athletes are insanely competitive people, and they don't want to not swing for the fences when it comes to business. Their ego is part of what makes them a great athlete, but also is a downfall in areas that they don't know. Unfortunately, a lot of young guys ultimately believe that money is their safe haven, but I'm here to tell you that it's not. Ego fuels performance on the field, but unchecked ego can lead to reckless decisions off the field. Fame magnifies this paradox. It draws attention, but attention does not equal financial security. In fact, the idea is that the more famous an athlete becomes, the more expensive their lifestyle often becomes. Fame is a magnifying glass. It enlarges both strengths and flaws, making triumphs brighter but mistakes more costly. While we cannot stop every athlete from drinking alcohol or making risky choices, we can warn them of the dangers. Addiction and financial mismanagement are preventable with education, mentorship, and community support. The goal is not to eliminate risk, but to equip athletes with the tools to manage it. Guidance is a compass. It cannot calm the storm, but it can point the way to safer shores. Here's our conclusion. Athletes, like all human beings, are vulnerable to the pressures of ego, fame, and competition. The challenge is not to extinguish their competitive spirit, but to channel it towards stability, resilience, and long-term well-being. At I Am Humans, we believe that the true victory lies not in swinging for the fences, but in building lives that remain strong long after the final whistle. Thank you.